And Fauci's like, damn you. He's going to be in trouble. He's going to be in trouble, don't you think?
Well, yeah, if we had a rational world and a real justice system, I would think he would be.
I think it takes time, but it's all coming out,
Just like the Kennedy assassination and, like it's all going to come out someday. They're going to get him. The
And
Clintons,
here we are.
Epstein, they'll get him.
Oh, yeah. Lock her up.
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. I'm here with Doug from the Rational Capitalist. back from... a short absence because we were gone for a while, and then I was doing a couple of shows without you. Glad you're here.
Happy to be on your program today.
All right. So today, apparently Trump is going to be arrested, which is nuts. And I mean, we'll see if it happens or not, but I don't see why it wouldn't happen. He's supposed to get indicted anyway, right? I don't know if arrested. What I heard was indicted, and then the Secret Service was going to coordinate him turning himself in or something. I mean, think of it this way. The guy is surrounded by law enforcement 24/7. So for him to be arrested, it's just sort of weird,
Well, this is the pure banana republicization of the country, where the ruling party arrests the opposition leader, like you hear about this stuff in Central America,
right.
They're going to put him put the opposition on trial.
And has he committed some horrific crime? Was he corrupt in some deep way? Did he commit murder? Did he get billions of dollars from from Russia? Did they find Russian collusion? Do they have him on tape talking to Putin and saying, whatever you say, man, just transfer the $10 million? Like, no, he wrote a check to a porn star.
He wrote a check to his lawyer who wrote a check.
He wrote a check to his lawyer who wrote a check to his porn star. And it's like a technicality. Like it's
like even the P-tape stuff would have been like more egregious. Like, hey, man, we're arresting you for letting the prostitute pee on you and or whatever that was.
For allowing Russia to blackmail you with P tapes. We're arresting you. No, none of that. No. Meanwhile, there's actual evidence on Hunter's laptop of the current president being really corrupt, taking bribes, no. Somebody wrote a check to a porn star over an affair, like a personal matter.
Over an NDA.
I mean, come on. So it's total banana republic stuff. So
I hope they applaud him. I hope they applaud him when he gets to the police station. I think the police should give him a round of applause, and he should turn it into like a photo op, where he's like shaking hands with all the police, thanking them for their service. And wouldn't that be hilarious?
Did you see the viral deep fake photos that came out of Trump running from law enforcement and the cops taking him down? You didn't see this?
No.
Okay. I'm going to look for this.
Is his shirt off like the Cops episodes where they'd always be catching the guy with his shirt off, like in the yard?
He's wearing a suit, and it's like, it's a new world with these deep fake photos. It's not amazing. A video. It's a deep fake photo. It could very well be a video. It's kind of funny. Let me just write deep fake here. Trump deep fake photo.
Someone did post a picture of him in a police. There must have been a police station picture of him in New York police station when he was president. And he's like walking in and everyone's like cheering him and shaking his hand and stuff. So I hope he does that. I would, if I were him. I'd be like, this is awesome. What a joke. This is hilarious.
Here's just to show you how crappy search is. I just went to Google and put in Trump deep fake photos arrest. Nothing. None of this shows up. I go to Twitter. I put in the same thing. Boom. this is a changing world? I think that's like a significant thing I just said there. Like we can no longer trust Google for any damn thing.
No, not at all.
All right, here are these photos. Right?
That's so funny.
Here he's getting taken down. They're taking him down to the ground. It's the New York cops taking him down.
Like this is progressive porn.
Yeah, that's right.
This is like total porn for progressive. This should be MSNBC like paywall, behind a paywall, so their subscribers could like pay for this.
Isn't that hilarious?
That's so good.
He's running from
I
the
like
cops.
how he's running. Yeah.
He's taken down, getting arrested. So funny.
Man.
It is progressive porn. That's hilarious. So obviously this is an absolute overstep, but I mean, even if this is a crime, which I don't know if it's a crime or not, but it's an obvious politicization of justice departments. It's the New York Attorney General doing this, right? And he's a Soros Attorney General. I feel like, do they really think they're going to get away with this? Like, it just feels kind of like, really?
I thought the Babylon Bee had an article. It was like, New York AG announces plan to re-elect Donald Trump.
Right. I mean, the consequences of this are not going to be exactly like, I mean, they're going to get some hardcore Trump haters, which there are many, to be very excited and happy about this. But that is going to turn off a lot. The Democrats keep doing things that push even more and more people out of their party by being so transparently. I've heard that a lot of people, Democrats, were freaked out by the SWAT team arriving at Mar-a-Lago and raiding his house for these documents, that it was just all bullshit, and going through Melania's underwear drawers, stuff like that. I mean, it's disgusting. And a lot of normal people who are still Democrats.
It's not that disgusting.
Yeah,
well,
right.
You're not a guy, but
it's not that.
Actually, that is
her
disgusting.
Underwear is disgusting. I mean, the actions are despicable. The underwear is probably quite lovely. I'm sure it's lacy, very sexy. She wears a thong, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%.
She's a thong lady.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm in my you are. Well, that I didn't need to know that.
Yeah.
Although
That's
in this
extra.
day and age, that actually makes you that gives you a higher status.
Well, did you see Chris Rock? I forgot where he was hosting something, and he goes, it was in DC, and he goes, are you all going to really arrest Trump? He's like, you're kidding, right? Because you're going to ensure that he gets reelected.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty funny.
I know.
I mean, I almost think that like Trump is orchestrating this.
I was just going to say that.
So preposterous. It's a dumb case. Yes. It's going to fall apart. The FEC's already ruled that this is not a crime, whatever. Like Tucker had great stuff on this all week, how ridiculous this case is. It's such a preposterous case. It's going to be thrown out so quickly that it almost seems like Trump's orchestrating it to rev up his people,
Right. And I mean, he's even using it to attack DeSantis for not kind of being more militant and like actually seceding from the union over this. Like, DeSantis is weak because he didn't say, over my dead body, you'll arrest Trump in my state. Like, how does could DeSantis honestly even do that? Because
I think he should.
The Secret Service, though, are around Trump. That's a federal. I mean, I'm not sure how that works, but anyway.
I do think okay. So all jokes aside, like, this is a serious enough, I think, violation of justice that I don't think it's out of the realm that a governor could say, like, Trump could go to Texas and say, okay, come here and arrest me. I'm exiled to Texas, and the governor of Texas says, we have our National Guard and our sheriff's departments here to protect, like, it could escalate to this point. And I think maybe that's what the left is trying to initiate. They're trying to provoke like almost an overreaction.
A reaction. If you listen to James Lindsay at all, he says the left's number one weapon is to create reactions. And that's Antifa's entire goal, is to create reaction to it that will allow violence to occur so they can take more control.
Yeah.
It's a tough quandary because, you know, what are you supposed to do? Just let them get away with everything? Or, I mean, at some point you have to react. You can't just sit back and let them continue to get away with everything because we don't want to poke the bear. James Lindsay says, because he's my new god. I keep it like James Lindsay says.
I can tell that's your new guy.
I
talking about him a lot.
I listen to him a lot. And I follow him on Twitter. And I think he's just one of the smarter, kind of big picture commentators right now. Awesome. And he really has a deep understanding of our enemy, the cultural enemy, and Marxism, and the whole academic, where, you know, woke. He just gets woke inside and out. Mm-hmm. And understands them and their tactics. And he reads all their stuff, you know, which none of us want to do. So thankfully somebody wants to do it. He does it. Anyway, he said, where was I going with this?
You were going to say
something about what he said about.
Yeah, because I was, I
reaction.
They're trying to provoke a reaction.
His strategy is like, we have to do this legally and calmly, even though it takes time. Like with the trans stuff, he says, you know, there are laws that you can't expose yourself, you know, like to kids. We have to systematically use the legal rights that we have to get rid of this stuff. We can't just, you know, create a mob and go outside the event and be a mob. Like that just won't work for us. It's just not, it won't work for us because we don't control the media and we don't control a lot of the institutions. Yeah. And so we have to use what we have, which is our legal rights and the law still.
I think that's still possible. You know, what he's saying is right, because I think you only go like the nuclear option, you know, where like Trump is exiled to a state and, you know, protected by a state's National Guard. That's like, that would be something where they're coming to kill Trump, you know, or they're like, we elected Trump, he's elected, and some, you know, it would be like some escalation that's beyond our current imagination. Yeah. Like to me, this is a dumb indictment that's going to fall on its face in the courts. Apart.
So should DeSantis secede over this, or should he just be like, let it all play out because it's bullshit? And he did come out and make a statement that it was political, that it was bullshit, you know, and for some reason, they want him to be tougher about it. Do you think he should be tougher? You said you thought he could have been tougher.
I think there should be a warning. I don't think he should be tougher, like in practice. I think the governors right now, if I were them, I'd be saying, look, New York, look, federal government, you guys should know, at this point, you are following the procedures of your state to do this indictment, which is obviously politicized and ridiculous, but you guys are going down a road right now that's really dangerous, and you are going to provoke a reaction on behalf of the people of our states and the leadership of our states that's going to be sort of like irreparable. And so be warned, like we can kind of play this game for a while, but if you continue down this road, I think they got to kind of throw down the gauntlet a little bit.
I would like to see him say they're trying to provoke a reaction. Like, and this is what James Lindsay does. He's constantly harping on this drag Floyd thing. He says they want drag Floyd. Don't give them drag Floyd. They want a trans person to be hurt either through suicide or violence of some kind, and to blame it on all of the pushback that's been happening against the story hour and things like that. And so they continue to provoke and escalate the provocation and do things even more disgusting and despicable. And, you know, next thing you know, it's going to be two naked guys literally fucking on stage in front of like 5-year-olds.
Right.
And you know, because they're not getting the reaction they want. They want
to keep
parents to literally freak out and someone to bring a shotgun, you know, which rightfully, if you're abusing children, you're going to get parents with shotguns at some point. There's going to be a level where it's going to escalate to violence. And that's what they're trying to provoke. And he's like, do not give it to them. Like at all costs, don't even show up to these things. You got to go legal. We need to do lawsuits, stuff like that. So he says you've got to call out this tactic in order for it to like fizzle and die. You have to expose it. And so if DeSantis is saying that they're obviously trying to provoke a civil war, they're trying to provoke a violent reaction on our side, a protective reaction, so they can swoop in with the army and take full control and martial law over the right and all the states that are red. They've already declared all of us domestic terrorists.
Right.
I mean, they're one step away from swooping in and literally declaring martial law against us as enemies of the state.
Yeah.
So
they put all the legal
framework
in place. They've definitely set all the precedents through like the National Defense Authorization Act and other legal stuff that's come out in the last 20 years since 9/11, where they can pretty much declare you like an enemy of the state and strip you of your constitutional rights and put you in a hole like they have with these J6.
Yeah, the J6ers are a perfect example of how they can get away with this and wreck lives. I cannot believe, I'm actually really shocked that Trump, I don't know if you heard this, but he said, get out and protest.
Yeah, I think that's right though. Why not protest? We can't protest.
No, we can't protest. We get arrested.
Well, see, that's where at some point we're going to have to draw the line. Like we should exercise all rights and use the system as much as possible.
Them abuse us even more?
No, I'm saying protest. And at some point you can legally protest. And I think that that's a form of using the courts and the system, because I wouldn't do it stupidly. I wouldn't give them easy ammo.
But if you have a protest, Antifa shows up, feds show up, they instigate the violence, and you get arrested. So that is the formula that they use successfully with the J6ers, and it's really chilled. I think in my case, I think it's stupid to protest.
But yes, and I guess it's just a tactical question to me. Like, what state are you in? I wouldn't go to DC. Like, did you see the video of that DC guy? I think it was like on 60 Minutes or something, where he basically Tucker had it last night, where this deputy AG FBI type guy was saying, yeah, we were intentionally trying to use shock and awe, that was his term, on J6 to deter anyone from actually just ever coming to Washington, D.C. and protesting. That was like their goal and he's like, now we've heard, and he was gleeful. He was gleeful about it. Like,
wait,
he was
who
like,
said this?
This was on 60 Minutes. It was the guy that was in charge of the FBI's response to the J6
so
stuff.
They were explicitly trying to stop anyone on the right from protesting.
Pretty much. They were saying that the guy was gleeful that it had worked, that he had heard now that people are afraid to come to Washington, D.C. to protest, that they had achieved their mission of deterring people from protesting.
Wow.
It was very, very frightening. And Tucker was just like, this guy in a normal society should not be in charge of anything. This is a very dangerous guy. But I guess it's just a tactical question of how you fight this. We still have a legal system. We still have the ability to fight this legally and to win elections and sort of turn the tide. And then you just got to figure out at what point, like, you have no other option. When you look at when civil wars start, it's not for, let's just start shooting. It's at a point where you have no other option. Your life is shit, and you either fight now or you live in tyranny forever, and you have a shitty life, and you're going to go to jail anyway, sort of, so to speak, like they're coming for you.
And
we're not there yet.
No, we're not there, but it's getting that way in the sense that we're definitely a persecuted people. And they're definitely able to get away with it. I mean, when you look at the J6 stuff, and this is what, in terms of Trump, he is, if he is arrested, he will be reelected, or at least he'll be the candidate for the right. I don't think he lost the last election. I know that's still controversial, but I probably can't even say that on YouTube. But I personally, I just kind of like, can anybody on our side even win based on the rigging? So, I don't know that enough has been done there to shore up our system. I mean, look at what happened in Arizona just recently.
Yeah.
And all the incredible stuff they're finding out there with freaking Katie Hobbs in league with the cartels and like having 2 houses that they bought for her, and just what, like the whole thing is corrupt. So we have not fixed that. And so I don't know how we would expect to have the ability to even put anybody on our side in office. So, whatever, I guess.
So you got to focus on your state.
Yes. And that's what you've been doing. And you want to talk about it a little bit and tell people what you're finding out in general about. So what Doug has done he's gone very local. He's gotten very involved in, is it county or city?
County, and then city under county. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm a part of a couple of local organizations, as well as being involved in party politics at this point. I've been extremely busy this spring on some elections that are coming up. And I decided to just kind of like get super involved locally with in a lot of different areas. Unfortunately, that's why things have been so crazy. And it's been a real eye-opener. First of all, I really think, and this is just a very broad point, and I've mentioned this before on this show, but this has really solidified in my mind that how important local activism, not just activism, but any sort of engagement politically, is just a part of life. It's not like something like we'll go do someday. At the founding of the country, the second the revolution was over, the founding fathers started fighting each other over how to organize the central government and what its powers would be. And, this is how humans work. Like, we live together and people are fighting. When I'm in a room, I've been in rooms of people that are like-minded that are all fighting and arguing in a really awful, terrible way. Like, I can't believe it, like that we're all on the same side and people are still fighting and arguing. And so it's just a part of life.
That level of rancor, though, is typical, or is it what's going on on the right now?
I think it's more, I think it's both, because I'm just saying, like, as a broad philosophical point, which take it or leave it, is that no matter how much you agree on things, there's like no utopia we get to where everything's fine. It's like, as soon as, like, if you are in a state or in a city where 90% of the people are kind of like you, two parties are going to form. You're going to have the super conservatives or something against the moderate conservatives, and then those people are going to fight, and then you can't run away.
There's always going to be factions.
There's always going to be factions of people that don't agree with each other and that you hate, and that you really like kind of violently hate, and like, broadly speaking. So I just want to make that point. But the real dynamic that's going on, I think, in society, probably throughout the country, is you've got these like sort of like old guard rhino Republican types who are very content to just kind of go along and do their thing. And this is,
are they typically boomers?
Yeah, I'd say this is our older people, very much older people. This is the Mitch McConnell crowd. This is the Bob Dole, George Bush type crowd, just like wave the flag around and rah, rah, America. And remember, America's always right. And, just red, white, and blue, just kind of a superficial sort of Republican. I don't want to call it superficial, because I think it's deep to, love the United States and what it stands for on a real fundamental level. So these are decent
Yeah,
people.
your Gen X is showing with that that ironic humor,
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of our
rah,
younger
rah,
generation.
whatever.
I'm kind of in the middle of this because I kind of see and was a part of that older, the Reagan Republican type people, but then also the new culture. And the younger people that are coming up particularly are very I think especially like the Trump type people, we're like sick of it. Like we got to do something. And then you've got these kind of older crowd that's like, well, geez, I don't know, and got to do things the right way and blah, blah, blah. And so I think that's what Trump has sort of exposed or unmasked, is that there's people that are really serious about fighting for freedom in this country and like kind of doing what it takes, and also kind of fighting in a more modern way, which is digitally and online and in different ways like that. And then the older people are more like, well, but there's a more nefarious side to it as well, because I think that's more the psychological. The more nefarious aspect of this is like the Mitch McConnells and Tom Tillises of the world that are, and Mitt Romneys that are embedded in the national political scene, that are serving the deep state and serving their own masters, their donors and whatnot. They're a real impediment. And that crowd, that Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, deep state establishment Washington, is kind of really what we're fighting. And then on the local level, I think there's people that don't quite get that, and they still see this as purely the Republicans are always the good guys, the Democrats are always the bad guys. And they don't quite grasp the gravity or the essence of really what's going on, which is there's like this permanent federal bureaucracy that's all like leeching off of
the uniparty aspect of it all.
Uniparty, yeah. And so when they see people like me, I guess, or people like maybe even younger than me coming up that are mad at the Mitt Romneys and the Mitch McConnells of the world, I don't think they see, I think they think, who are these people? These people are kooks. They're nuts. They're crazy. Like, how could
they're going to tear it all down?
Yeah. I don't think they quite grasp where we're coming from as younger, right-wing type people that are trying to really fight for true freedom and liberty, and see the establishment class, the Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham type people, as being an impediment to that. They just like think, oh, you guys are just a bunch of kooks. You're the J6ers.
I have a hard time even understanding that. Like, how can you not look at what's been happening in the last 10 years?
They don't
and think
look
to
at
yourself, Mitch McConnell, he's great. I mean, like, everybody's freaking out about Obamacare, and the Tea Party gets formed, and, all this stuff. And then it fizzles. And even when we had the control and we could repeal it, we didn't, because of John McCain. And, it's like there is all this evidence that this group is standing in the way of any agenda that these people supposedly agree with, right? I mean, they're Republicans for a reason. So I don't get it, but I know that it's there. A lot of times I see it as, what I don't understand is, I guess I see it as weakness. They're often, so they prioritize civility and getting along more than actually changing anything.
Yeah, that's a real important thing, especially psychologically with Republicans and right-wing people, is we got to do this the right way, and it's got to be kind of like civil. And they would see the J6 thing as just being completely crazy and wild. And so I think there's a psychological thing here. I don't think they grasp how deep this movement, this progressive movement, is philosophically. That the current progressives, it's not just like your old Democrats that they were fighting against. This is like a cult. The current progressives
it's
are
a real
religion,
revolutionary, fanatical cult.
Like, they were fighting.
if we don't stop them, I mean, we're already seeing it. And I was reading this really great article by Naomi Wolf.
Yeah.
And in there was this gem where she kind of said, if it hadn't been for voices like hers and, these people who pushed back against the tyranny, this medical tyranny and this lockdown stuff and the vaccines and all that stuff. I mean, granted, it wasn't mainstream, but it was a groundswell of people pushing back and getting the information out there. And it was, you kind of sometimes don't realize or connect to it. It's impossible to know how effective that was.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really think about it. And you get frustrated because it's not mainstream. But she said in there, she took credit for how we're not like Canada, that we didn't double down on it, that we're not still living in this crazy. I mean, there are still problems, but we've gotten a lot of our freedoms back. And that's because of people like her who stood up to it, writers and doctors and all of these fringe people who actually stood up. They did make a difference. Because they would, the people in control absolutely would not have given us back our freedoms unless it wasn't tenable for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, look what is going on in Canada. So
it's a good point. Yeah.
I think it was a really good point that, again, it's hard to connect. You don't know how far they would have gone. You don't know what would have happened. You can't ever know that. And so it's easy to sort of downplay the effect of this courageous, I wouldn't even call it activism, but just truth telling. And it absolutely must have had an effect. They are listening to us in a way. We are having an impact.
Well, I was personally at some school board meetings, where we brought some doctors and people to speak. And going back to the local thing again, this is really impactful, because if there's no conflict for people,
right.
If there's no conflict for them, why not just
keep going and going and going until,
but all of a sudden 3 doctors show up at a school board meeting and are like, this is crazy. Like, you can't do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm a medical doctor, whatever. And there's a bunch of parents that are mad. They don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Now, Nancy Pelosi doesn't care, but your local school board does, because those people have to live with you in the community, and they don't want contentious, like crazy parents picketing them. So these people that show up to this stuff and like bitch and complain, even if it's 50-50 or whatever, there's so much conflict and acrimony over it that the people that are running the boards and stuff are like, you know what, we do have to moderate this. Like, they just have to do it. Like, they're not like 7,000 miles away.
And this gets to your point. People argue these situations, these local politics, it's fucking unpleasant. You're even when you're on the same side, you have to sit on these committees and talk to these people and argue with them and try to stay calm and like not, and work the room, so to speak, or push back, or you have to stand up for yourself. And it's so uncomfortable and it's so hard. And what has happened is people just don't do it. They don't go, they stay out of it, they stay home. And then what happens is the assholes are the ones who are there and they're running everything. And that's why we're in the situation we're in.
And we're at a disadvantage because there's a fundamental psychological difference between leftists and conservatives. Conservatives want to like leave people alone. They're competent, they're independent. They just kind of want to live their own life. The left sees this sort of political activism as essential to their life because they want to control the world. They feel like the world's out of control and everyone's evil and they're losers typically in their own lives. And so they live for controlling people and being on committees and directing things so that they feel like they're gaining like esteem and sort of like personal power over their world. And it's like a real psychological difference. And you can see that
it is a psychological difference.
Leftists just come to this stuff and they love it. They love doing this stuff. And conservatives like, no, I don't want to go to that, man. That's awful.
I see this in my own family where the people on the right, like, we don't even really talk about politics or things like that. Like, we don't even get into it. We certainly don't sit around and argue with each other about it. One person from the left comes into the room and there's all of a sudden we all have to like use the right pronouns and like it's just like they want to force their worldview on everybody and they're angry at everybody. And like, you could have the most benign thing that you say or mention triggers some side that they're on that you're not on, and they want to fight about every fucking thing.
And imagine like you're sitting there like 50 years ago and you're with a bunch of your buddies or something, and like a super religious, like warrior, evangelical type person comes in the room.
Yeah.
And you're drinking some beers and it's like, oh,
it's like a Westboro Baptist church person.
Yeah, like we got to be careful here. Don't get that guy going. Oh my God, it's going to ruin the whole dynamic in the whole room. And that's what they are. That's what they do to these meetings and everything else. And it's really hard to overcome this natural disadvantage.
So this is a great segue into showing the clip of that video that I sent you.
Oh yeah, those prigs, the camper.
Yeah, I mean, I was making this. I've been watching this guy. What is his name again?
Academic Agent.
And he did a video called "Why Are People So?" What does he do? Hang on a second. Why are middle class people so left wing? But anyway, in there he plays this clip of a movie called Nuts in May.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect.
It's like a real low budget British 70s thing.
Why not, huh? Let's just
play it for a minute. It's pretty long though.
It is pretty long.
Very
I'll
British.
play it for a minute. It's very British. You're right. The humor builds.
Them, but it ends up becoming more like a lecture. Take a look.
Really, you know?
Oh, I saw you doing your exercises this morning. I follow the Royal Canadian Air Force system myself.
Oh, yeah?
You have a system?
Well, I was just doing basic sort of rugby circuit training, really, you know.
Yes, but is it a system?
What do you mean, system?
Well, is it tabulated? Do you time yourself?
Well, you can do if you want to, you know, but I was just loosening up.
Oh, I see. You see my maximum minimum thermometer over there?
Oh, yeah?
One of my instruments for logging the weather. Another one over here. This is a portable barometer. A bit like a travelling clock, really. Bit silly in the middle of the night if you wake up, want to know the time. Turn over and all you'll find out is whether it's fair or foul.
Take sugar, eh?
Yeah, 2, please.
It's only brown sugar.
This could be
as long as it's sweet.
This could be a millennial showing you his app that tracks this and tracks that, and like, here's my barometer and I track this and I track that and I have this and I have a system. And
you know what it is too? It's creating the illusion of control in your own life. Again, this is like the psychological reference to the left. It's like when you see people yelling about someone not wearing a mask, they're imagining that they control viruses, that they can literally control nature. They can control everything in the world.
Yeah.
And this is an attempt to like micromanage everybody else. It's the central planner mindset. Yeah.
And so I'm going to just jump ahead here. Later on, some guy comes into the campground next to them and he's doing something wrong. He's not allowed to make a fire or something. And the guy just, he cannot stand that somebody's breaking the rule.
Outside.
Now don't be silly.
No, but you mind your own bleeding business.
It is my business. My business is to protect the life of the countryside and our heritage. Now you don't seem to be.
Now, the funny thing is that sounds like a conservative, like I'm protecting heritage, but this is not the psychology of the conservative, to accost somebody in nature and, wag their finger in their face.
But you know what's interesting is how much this is flipped, Sonny, because like I think in the 70s, these kids are sort of like the rebels. And this guy would probably be seen as sort of like a conservative prig, and yet everything's flipped where now this is the left.
Yeah.
Be aware of those things, so I'm advising you as to the extent of your responsibilities. You shouldn't be breaking those branches, and you shouldn't be making a fire.
So the guy keeps making the fire.
You see the motorcycle, they're like rebels.
Now, I don't want to get you into trouble, but if you go on with this, I shall have to go and tell Miss Beale.
You can tell her you're bleeding well like.
I'm going to cancel
that's the way you want it.
If you won't do as I say, I'm going to cancel you. You know, now the guy's going off to tell the owner of to tattle on him.
And Miss Beale doesn't seem to be around, and so I'm assuming responsibility.
But you didn't look for her, did you?
Yes, I did, and she's not there. Now stop what you're doing.
No. What the bleeding hell do you think you were?
I'm a good citizen who's aware of his responsibilities.
I'm woke. I'm a good citizen who's aware. I'm woke.
You're a bloody comedian, mate.
No, I'm not. Now
Like,
stop
are you
what
joking?
you're doing.
No, look, I paid my money. You got no right to come telling me what.
I feel like this is our constant attitude. It's like, are you joking? Like, are you really,
Yeah.
Are you bloody joking? I'm just like, mind your own business, dude.
Oh, I've got every right. I have the power to arrest you if I wanted to. Now stop making that fire.
Now it's getting violent, right? Now it's that's a threat.
Every citizen has the right to arrest another citizen who's breaking the law. Now be told.
What law am I breaking?
You're breaking the laws of the campsite and the laws of the country code.
The country code. So he keeps breaking
Now, I
the
don't
wood.
want to have to use force.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Like
have to
what?
use force.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh, come on.
What are you going to do about it, didn't I?
Just put the stick down.
Just leave it.
You want to fight? I'm going to be told. You touch me, I'm a bleeding kill you.
Now look, I don't want to fight you. I just want to tell you that you shouldn't. Look, keep away from me! I just want you to stop making the fire and stop breaking those branches.
Come on, Finger, leave it alone.
Go on, hit me. Go on.
No, I'm not going to. Get away from me! I'll knock your head off! Get back! I'm warning you!
You know, there was a subtle little thing there that he said, which was that he goes, all I want you to do is stop the fire. Stop cutting the branches and making the fire. So this guy is literally accosting him and like threatening him, like beating him over the head with a stick.
Yeah.
And this is sort of like, hey, no. We believe in free speech. We just don't want you to offend people with pronoun, or we just don't want you to like offend trans
I don't want to be
people.
violent, but there's a stick in your face, so do as I say.
But it's not like, I'm not the classic defense, or not defense, like mechanism of the left is they're not saying I want to control every aspect of your life. They're saying I just want you to stop doing the fire. I just want you to stop cutting the branches. I just want you to stop this one little thing, Sonny, that you're doing. Wear the mask. Just all I'm asking, Sonny, all we're asking is just wear the mask. That's all we're asking.
Yeah.
And then
why
suddenly
are you arguing?
next week
you
it's like
can't be
you got
nice. You can't use my pronouns.
Yeah. Why can't you just do that? And then it's, why didn't you take the vaccine? All we want you to do is take a jab. I mean, how hard is that?
Take a drug against your will. Yeah.
All we want you to do is stay at home and not go outside. Is that so hard? And then
right.
But I love that little subtle thing where he's like totally crazy and he's like, I just want you to stop the fire. Like, if I could just get you to do this one little thing, I would be okay. And of course, they're not okay. It's never enough.
Right.
It's not just the fire. It's everything. They want to control every aspect of your life.
Because the essence of it is I know better, and you're just going to do what I say, whatever that is. If it's a mask or stay in your house, raise your children a certain way. You're not a good parent if you don't sexualize your children at age 5. And so we'll just take your kids away from you. Like if you won't do what we say, I don't want to take your kids. Just, you're harming your children by not sexualizing them. I know better than you.
100%.
So it doesn't matter the scale. It's the same, but yeah, I see that a lot where they're just like, why can't you just do this? That is a constant refrain from the left. Why can't you just do this?
Yeah,
what's the big deal? You hear that all the time from them. Like, I can't believe these crazy people pushing back on masks. It's just a mask. Just wear the mask.
Can't you just use inclusive language?
Yeah.
and it's like they did that to Jordan Peterson. I saw this leftist on Michael Knowles saying it was the same thing. Like, why can't you just do it? Like, what's so hard about that? And he's like, because I use precise language. I'm not going to, and you got to stop. We got to stop giving into it at any level and don't accept that. Well, if we just do this one thing, it'll satisfy the left.
Yeah.
If we just,
I think that's a really good point. And the answer isn't, oh, because of grammar and such. It's fundamentally your answer should be, listen, where does it end? If you think I should just do this thing because you know better, where's the rest of it? The big long list of things that you think differently with me about. Why don't you hand it to me now? Let's just get it over with. And you can tell me all the things that I'm just going to have to do.
100%.
Or you're going to be angry. And that is the reason I won't do it. It's not because of grammar or whatever. Although that, to me, like, that is a big deal. Speaking in some weird fucking plural pronoun way when I'm talking about a singular, like it's an ice pick in my brain and the organization of thinking in words.
Mm-hmm.
And they know it is, but anyway.
Why can't you just say 2 + 2 is 5, Sonny? Is that so hard for you to do that? Why
can't you just do math wrong every time you do math? Oh, I don't know. That might make me a little insane. Because it matters. And however, I don't even think that's the right, now that I'm like listening to what you're saying, that's not even the right response. And I've had this in my own life where I do have people who are requesting that I use certain pronouns. And the answer isn't because it's grammatically incorrect, and I've been thinking, how do I respond to this in a way that makes sense and that is actually showing this other person what it is they're demanding of me, because it isn't just about grammar.
Yes.
And this is exactly, I feel like I'm having an epiphany. This is exactly what you should say is, well, where does it end? The reason I won't do this is because the fundamental thing here is, you know better about how I should live my life and what I should do and how I should think and how I should raise my child and on and on and on. So let's write the list. And then you can see why I won't do step 1, because I reject all of this. You don't get to tell me what to do about anything,
Yes.
Yeah.
And the tactic here is now obvious, because they never said, Sonny, we're going to control everything about your life, how you raise your kids, what your morality is, what job you have. We're going to just control everything. Okay. You okay with that? They just said, oh, we're just going to control this one little thing. Can't you just do that for us? And we're like, yeah, we'll do that. That's fine. Who cares? And then it's like, well, we want you to do this now. It's like, well, are you kidding? Are you serious? Like the guy, are you a bloody comedian? Like, really? You want me to do that? And then 10 years later, we're all doing that. And then
there's this with the vaccines, it was, we have to force you to be good and to do the right thing. We have to force you to be kind to your neighbors. You're being, it's this guy, you can't build a fire here. This is the country code. I don't want to get violent, but you're not choosing to be a good neighbor. You're not choosing to be, it's like, it's so, it's almost worse than if a gangster rolls up and says, give me your money. Give me your money.
I'm a thief. Just
right.
give me
I'm just a thief.
Because they're telling you to do it for your own good. And, the thing to recognize here is the reason why it's never enough is because when you imagine that you can control reality and you feel that you need to control reality in order to live successfully, there's no end to what you will try to do to control reality. Like, can you do this? Can you do that? Wear the mask, do this, you got to, and it becomes pathological desire to control everything around you. Whereas, like, as freedom loving people, we're like, you know what? Shit happens, man. Like, we're independent people. You got to adapt to nature. Life's complicated. It's difficult. I'll deal with it. Like, if shit happens to me, I'll solve it. I'll fix it. We'll work together and figure this out. We have a very benevolent, very logical and rational orientation to reality and how to interact with it. Whereas no. Unless we control everything, we're going to die. And that's why we can just say
neurotic.
No. Say no. It is neurotic, and that's why they are neurotic. And it's just like it's the root cause of mental illness, and that's why they are literally mentally ill.
They're
Because
literally
if you're
mentally ill.
if you're
They're
in a
all on
store,
SSRIs, and they're all constantly talking about their mental health problems, and they look mentally ill.
if you're in a store screaming at someone to wear a mask, you are mentally ill.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you are, and so because you're trying to control other people, it's the answer is like no, like pronouns,
if you,
whatever. It's no.
The problem is if you have someone in your family that you love
Mhm.
and care about who is demanding this of you, you have to give them more than a no. I feel like what has troubled me is, I love these people. I want to still have a relationship with these people. But I won't compromise on this. And so how do we move forward? How do we get them to understand that, because they make it seem like we're just being petty and, why won't you just do this? And I think it feels good to me to have a way to say, this is not petty. This is not some small thing. This is a long, long laundry list of things you don't agree with me on. And where does it end? Because there are much more serious things that we don't agree about than this. But like how to raise my child,
Mhm.
which so I think it really, and they can see that they're constantly, they have the woke ideology is a critical consciousness. That is what it is. Like everybody's been talking about how to define woke. It's critical consciousness, which means that you walk the earth literally criticizing everything from an oppressor oppressed frame of reference. Everything. So the list is long. Everything about you, everything you're doing, they're going to criticize from the oppressor oppressed lens.
Mhm.
Everything from the coffee you're drinking, literally like stuff you just completely don't even think about. Small things are wrong.
We breathe out CO2. We're breathing out pollutants.
We are ourselves
that are crushing the climate.
Walking evil, especially if we're white.
It's a form of original sin.
Yeah. And so this is where they're coming from. It doesn't end with just pronouns. It's everything you're doing is wrong. Like these same people in my family, and I hate to keep bringing them up, but I see this online too. And it's a trope. Like they're like a type. They're now only shopping at thrift stores. They don't wear new clothes. They don't, there's, so if you go buy a new shirt for them for Christmas, like this is a violation to them of the, the oppressor oppressed world we live in.
You're destroying the planet. Your very existence destroys the planet. All you can do is minimize your sin. I mean, this is like the original Catholic original sin idea where we're all sinners. We're all, bad, evil people. And all you can do is like minimize it, ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Try and, to get into God's good graces.
It's a long, long list of criticisms and grievances that you will have to change about yourself if you want to comply with them. And that's why it's not just a mask or just pronouns or a small petty thing. So that's a really interesting point. And I see that all the time. I don't want to hurt you, but it's just, why can't you just do this? I see that on Twitter a lot. Like there's.
And why don't we say, well, why don't you just not do this?
Yeah.
Because it's just as easy for you.
A very good point. Why don't you just use regular pronouns?
Yeah, it's just as easy for you not to.
Yeah.
Like, why do you want me to do it? You can use whatever pronouns you want.
Why don't you just buy a shirt at the Gap? Why don't you? Yeah, that's it.
But notice that you're also here, like you're saying, I love these people. I want to have a relationship with them. And so you're trying to figure out how to almost be malleable to their, I'm
trying to explain to them. Right. I'm hoping to deprogram them. Like ultimately I want them to see what they're truly, I want them to try to see in the mirror. I don't even know if that's possible, but
at some point you have to say, what my point was just going to be was at some point you have to ask, do they care about you? Right. Do they love you? Do they care about your own mental health? And how you see the world? Like they don't seem to care about us. They seem to just want to change us. So like, why do we
the reason is because they the woke cult, and this is again from the god of woke, James Lindsay. He believes, and I don't know if this is true because I'm not a scholar about these things, but he believes that this is the continuation of a multi-thousand-year-old religion called Gnosticism.
Mhm.
And ultimately, it is a utopian kind of philosophy with them as gods. And so if you're in the woke religion, you know, and everybody else doesn't know. So they see themselves as superior, as godlike compared to you. They have this knowledge that you don't have, and they are special. So that's where that comes from.
Yeah, that's the Platonic philosopher king idea.
Yeah.
That there are philosopher kings that have access to special knowledge and they rule over society.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole basis of all utopianism, is the idea that there's a perfect realm and that some people have access to knowledge about how to get to the perfect realm, and all the masses are imperfect reflections of the ideal that they have to control.
The reason why your opinions or your feelings about it don't matter is you're not in the know. You don't know. You're
dumb. You're just a dummy.
Know, you don't know. Yeah, you're a dummy. You're a hick. You're a rube. I was going to play the Fauci thing now. Should we play that? Or do you want to talk about I just feel like the old religion thing is making me think of that other thing we were going to talk about. There was this video that we watched, Doug and I, that showed how Christianity was the woke cult that took down Rome. And I didn't know that pagan meant like country person. Did you know that?
No.
As a word, I guess it means rural person or something. So when they are telling us we're these pagans, or when the Christians told the Romans that they were pagan and evil, it was the country people that they were. It's almost like
means villager.
Mirroring our exact situation.
Well, okay, let me set this up a little bit, because so people know what you're talking about. Like, this guy has a video, and his basic theory is Christianity in Roman times was to the Romans as to what woke is to us as like regular Americans.
We'll put this in the description, the video in the description, because it's kind of like I don't know. It just kind of blew my mind a little bit. And I don't know if you ever saw the movie Agora. Did you ever see that movie? Like, it came out maybe 12, 15 years ago. So that takes place at the end of Rome when the Christians are kind of rising to power. And it's specifically the story of Hypatia, who was that female astronomer teacher, and in Alexandria at the time. And I think Alexandria was sort of the last holdout. And the library at Alexandria famously was burned by the Christians. And so the movie ends with the library being sacked and burned, and she is dragged through this, she's dragged through the street as a heretic and all of that, and killed. So it's sort of her story, but she's a pivotal, that's a pivotal moment in the history of the world, when they burned the library at Alexandria, which had all of the knowledge that had been sent and gathered and protected there, because of all of these other towns had fallen already to barbarians and such. So, yeah,
it was interesting. One of the interesting dynamics that he brings out in that video is like the farmers, like, as you said, pagan sort of like means villager or something like that. The people that held on to the old gods of the old Roman gods, these were like true Romans, the people that were strong and independent, and they're rural, and they would come into the city, into Rome, and be like, oh God, sort of like a farmer today going into New York City, because there's people from all over the empire that were it was like a melting pot of all these people.
It's very
from all over the empire.
diverse.
It's very diverse, and like here comes the rube.
It's kind of
from the country's
dangerous.
like,
Culturally,
oh, man.
it's so different from the guy from the country and his culture and what he lives with.
Yeah, and there and as a Christian thing is spreading, you can see like those people are now out of place.
He says it happens quickly. Like you used to come into the city and it used to be this exciting thing, and now you come in and this is kind of what we're all dealing with. Like now it's like homeless camps and it's different. And everybody that I know who lives, I'm in California, a lot of people want to go buy 10 acres and have a sustainable farm. And I'm like, you're crazy. Eventually we've got to stand here and fight, because going to the country and giving up the city to these crazy people is the fall of Rome. And this is the pattern of history. We're watching it again. People want to get away from it. Good people who don't want to tell other people how to live. They just want to get further and further and further and further away from it, to be able to be free and not be told what to do. But you're going to lose your country for your kids if you don't make a stand. This is what stop going to the country and buying your 10 fucking acres. I think I said this. I've been harping on this in videos in my past videos. Stop going to the country, everybody. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about that? I want to play.
That's a good way to put it.
Fauci, the god Fauci, telling a rube villager, because he knows and the rube villager doesn't know. And the greatest thing about this is that, really, honestly, the rube villager just completely owns Fauci, just owns his ass. But Fauci, he just turns around and he's like, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to force the guy. He's trying to think for himself. It doesn't matter. I'm going to tell him what.
This is the guy with the stick who's saying, don't
is the guy at the campground with the stick.
Don't start the fire.
Why can't you
want to
just
have to do this?
You're protecting your kids, and
This is the country code.
So what this is PBS is coming out with some sort of documentary lionizing Fauci.
Oh my God.
A little bit tone deaf.
Just the presumptuousness of this guy, like going door to door. And they're going to get this video and they do this photo op with these guys that are going to show the genius of Fauci.
Yeah, here we go.
Here
are the Gnostic cult members going to the room.
So they're like Jehovah's Witnesses.
The plebs, to try to convince them to get vaccinated, because they know this demographic, this inner city Black demographic, they are not getting vaccinated. I don't know if they're on Telegram or what. I have no idea how these people found this stuff out. You don't see them on Twitter. Where did they find out all this information? But he obviously knows to be skeptical. And I'm assuming this was happening at the height of the vaccination campaign. So here we go.
People in America are not settled with the information that's been given to us right now. So I'm not going to be lining up taking a shot or a vaccination for something that wasn't clear in the first place. And then you all create a shot in miraculous time.
Common sense. The guy is just literally logical in a basic human way.
Yeah, like how do you create
this
a drug
information
immediately?
Isn't clear. And so then now you're trying to say do this, but it's not clear in the first place why I should do this. Like nothing about this is clear. So I'm not doing jack shit that you want me to do.
It takes years to create vaccinations.
Well, it used to take years.
Okay, it used to. You know
how many years were invested in this approach? About 20 years of science to get us to be able to do it.
20 years is not enough. And 9 months is definitely not enough for nobody to be taking no vaccination that you all came up with.
The only reason I'm talking to you right now, as close as we are, is that I've been vaccinated.
Right.
But if it allows thousands of people like you don't get vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to.
Why can't you just do it? Why can't you just take it? Right.
Well, just think of the lie that she just told there, which is that the reason I can stand here is because I've been vaccinated. We know that obviously you can still get COVID and die from this, even if you're vaccinated.
These people knew. They knew. Fauci in particular knew. that vaccinated people could still get COVID and spread COVID. Meanwhile, she's outside. So for her to be like, the only reason I feel safe standing here 6 feet away from you outside talking to you is because I've been vaccinated. I mean, that's a cult member.
She has the magic shield.
That's a cult member.
There's the shield of Christ around her.
Vaccinated, you're going to let this virus continue to percolate in this country and in this.
You are going to
like
let
the common flu, then, right?
And
this is great comment.
To percolate in this country and in this world.
Something like the common flu, then, right?
Dang, something like the common flu, then, right? Exactly, sir. Exactly. Look at his face.
Like she's going to tell him that he's responsible for it. And he's like, oh, like the flu? Like I'm responsible for the flu?
Right, right.
That seems to be fine.
The flu circulates all over the society and we're all fine, really. I mean, people die, but, life is a risk.
And
it's much more serious than the flu. Though.
Well, the flu kills a lot of people annually, too.
You know how many people died of the flu the last year? I mean, not this year, virtually none, but the previous year.
Side note, virtually no people died of the flu. That's one of the things people were saying. This doesn't make sense. These numbers that they're giving us on COVID deaths don't make sense. One small, obvious thing is the flu has disappeared. And that's impossible.
About 20 to 30,000. You know how many people have died from COVID-19 in the United States? 600,000 Americans.
Listen to him. Look at his face. He's disgusted. 600,000. Look at his face. Seriously. His mouth. I've been watching a lot of Jose Enrique Rosas, the body language guy who does the body language for the Harry and Meghan and all these people. Like, he's so funny. And I think I'm starting to know the body language cues. Look at his face.
1,000 Americans.
Hang on. I didn't rewind it.
How many people have died from COVID-19 in the United States?
Here's another thing.
600,000 Americans.
Did you see that micro? It's just 600,000.
Let's say it's true that all else equal, the COVID virus can cause more damage or is more dangerous than the flu virus. That still doesn't support the efficacy of the vaccine to stop it.
Excellent point.
So that's another flaw here is he's just saying,
he's just trying to.
COVID's more dangerous.
Yep. So take the shot.
Therefore, you should take the shot. That doesn't follow.
Such a good point, Doug.
The number that you all giving that died, that's once again, that's you all's number.
And that is true.
Once again, this is your number, and I don't trust you guys.
Because the numbers were inflated.
Definitely. Because when you start talking about paying people to get vaccinated, when you start talking about incentivizing things to get people vaccinated, there's something else going on with that. Something else going on with that.
This guy's on the street. He knows when he's fucking being taken for a ride, right? I mean, you just have this common sense. This doesn't smell right. I feel like I have that. This is the number one reason why I wasn't I was on the fence about it, but I was watching because my health is so bad. I don't take a vitamin without kind of
considering the
carefully, let alone inject some experimental thing that is designed to mess with my immune system. I don't play that game. And there were so many red flags about this thing before it even came out. There were all these rumors and red flags circulating about how the study people had not fared too well and that Pfizer seemed to be hiding this. And, there were just tons that Facebook was taking down groups of people who'd been in the study who were trying to compare notes and talk about their illnesses because nobody would listen to them and nobody would talk to them. And so they were getting together on Facebook. And then Facebook canceled their groups. So, and this is before it came out. And you're like, wait, this is fishy as F.
Yeah. You're so confident.
You're right. But I'm glad millions of people like me and most everybody here didn't get an. You know what their incentive was? Protecting their health and protecting the city. But I won't keep you anymore.
It's okay, because my incentive, y'all campaign is about fear. It's about inciting fear in people. You all attack people with fear. That's what this pandemic is. It's a fear. It's fear, this pandemic. That's all it is.
Ha ha ha. That
Goes
guy was
back to
right.
the limo.
That guy was right about it. On every level. He's like, this
Mhm.
whole pandemic is fear. And all of these numbers, these are your numbers. And they don't make sense. And you don't make sense. And I'm not going to do this. You tell me I got to save the world by taking this shot. This is a fear-based manipulation. Smart, right?
Yeah. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I can't believe PBS left that clip in. But it's all over the place now. Now they're like, oops. And Fauci's like, damn you. He's going to be in trouble. He's going to be in trouble, don't you think?
Well, yeah, if we had a rational world and a real justice system, I would think he would be
I think it takes
on trial.
time, but it's all coming out, you know?
Just like the Kennedy assassination and, you know, all like it's all going to come out someday. They're going to get him. The
And
Clintons,
here we are. How many years
Epstein,
later?
they'll get
Oh,
him.
yeah. Yeah. Lock her up.
Once we know the truth of that Russia collusion, that was all just a hoax, then everything will be fine. We'll all know the truth.
Yeah, it's exhausting. When are we going to see? We have to see some wins. It's really hard, isn't it? To keep going, to keep motivated, to not move to the country and get your freaking tomato plot and your try to raise goats.
Eat bugs.
You know,
Yeah.
but it is, you know, and again, and the alternative is to stay put, to do what you're doing, to go have uncomfortable conflict with rhinos and leftists. You know, you don't even have a team that you can feel safe in because the rhinos are there.
But here's the thing is it is important to seek out groups that are as close to you as possible. And because, yeah, if you were just by yourself trying, you know, this like lonely fight, you're going to lose, you're going to be dispirited. Like I see people that do much more than I've ever done, like locally in terms of activism, and they're warriors, but they're also got groups around them of people that are also very supportive. And so, you know, if you're local right now, find those groups, you know, look out for your local party, local politicians, local board people, whatever that you're allied with,
So
and
would
have
you
a conversation with them.
The first thing to do is to try to hook up with actual like-minded younger generation Republicans. You know, I want to call them MAGA Republicans. Not necessarily Trump supporters, but people who are on the side of what the heck, we got to like save the country.
Let me give you a counterpoint to that though, too. And which is that there is a group of people that are kind of on our side that I think are they're almost cultists and in their own right, and by what I mean by that is they don't see the tactical plan either. They're sort of like blow it all up and they're not effective. So there's an aspect of this to where like what you're talking about with James Lindsay, if your attitude is, I'm just bulling a China shop, gonna like knock it all down.
Yeah.
And unless everything is my way tomorrow, I'm out. I'm not even participating in this. You're not going to win and you're not going to be effective. You're not going anywhere. So you can be very strong and be very principled and fight for what you want. But at the same time, realize too, that things are not going to change tomorrow.
It's a lot easier to tear things down than build things. Right? I mean, it's harder to go in and have play the long game and be patient and work the problem than it would be to just blow it up.
Well, and I don't even know how you blow it up. You know, there's kind of no way to
secede from the union. That's the thing too. It's like people are, oh, we got to secede. It's like, and then what? You know, Texas is run by a major rhino, and like, you know, we're gonna have the same problems within these red states.
I see. I don't agree with that because yes, there are, like I said, there are always problems,
until we need time to take over those states in a significant way. I think right now the infrastructure is not there. The freedom
Yeah.
infrastructure is not in place in this country at the state and local level,
I think
even in the
states should
red
be,
states.
well, they should be moving towards, people need to start thinking about what secession looks like and what that would mean and like what the implications are and how you would defend your state and all that kind of stuff. I think that's great to think that way. And so one way towards that though is deal with your local and within your state and your county and your city or whatever, and just try and get that situated or try and get your head around it, like what you would need to do to be impactful. And hopefully that radiates out around your state. And if your state becomes like a great state, then they will stand up to the federal government on your behalf. And hopefully at some point, if there is a union of good states, I still think that.
But without that, Doug, without that, like before you all got there and were making these changes, imagine that your state was suddenly independent. What kinds of things would those old boomer rhinos do politically? You know,
I have more control over that fight than I do over fighting Washington, D.C.
No, I know. This is what I'm saying, though, is that
it's not a utopia.
If you live in a red state and it's rhino red, not MAGA red, like you're going local, not only to beat the leftists, but part of that battle is replacing these boomer rhinos and creating a political situation of really principled, freedom-loving people who are willing to stand up, who don't want to get along with the left. They want to stand up to the left. Without that, if the people that you guys replaced were still in power and then there was a secession and they were in charge, I'm saying, what would those people be like? They would suck.
Yeah, but again, it's sort of utopian thinking again, because it's like, well, what do you do then? Like you wait for it to be perfect? I agree.
I'm not saying wait for it to be perfect, but I'm saying the job, like seceding today, if you're in a red state, if you haven't gone and done the hard work, the local work, and you have a rhino red infrastructure, you know what I'm saying? That you have to do the hard work locally. That's what I'm saying. You can't just blowing it up without doing the hard work.
Well, first of all, I don't think rhino red Republicans would ever secede. So I think just to get to the point where people are seriously, realistically going to talk about that kind of stuff, you would need we need like almost a generation of people more like us to be taking over these positions in these states to say, we can realistically do that. Like Mitch McConnell's not going to move for Kentucky to leave the union, like
I'm trying to like contrast the blow it up, the right-sided blow it up strategy versus what you're doing, and saying without what you're doing, like there's no way to win. I hear a lot of people saying we got to secede like right now.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, like, what are we going to end up with if they're like when Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said we need to have a national divorce. I'm like, I don't really want to be in a country led by these rhino Republicans. I don't want Mitch McConnell being my president. You know?
Right. But you can always leave your state. You can go to a different state. But I think she's right to start having this conversation. What I'm saying is that you can do all these things. You can start thinking about what a national divorce would look like. You can start thinking about reasserting yourself locally and like trying to take over your towns and your states. You can start moving towards it. Let me just say this. There's no silver bullet. It's not like, oh, secession. Okay, utopia. Woo, we got secession.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. That's dumb. I feel like that's the blow it up side, though. Is there not?
Everyone wants the silver bullet.
They don't want to just slog away at City Hall, going to meetings and making friends and making coalitions and electing good. They don't want that slog. It's a slog, And
when you really think about your life, though, like when you wake up every day and you go to a store, you drive down a road, like all these things that you do are all taking place in your town. Like, does Ukraine really affect you that much? I know we have to send X% of our income to Washington, but, start there. Like, the most important thing you have is probably your schools and your kids. If you have children, you're worried about schools and schooling and education. You're worried about crime. and you're worried about like economic development, your quality of life every day, and all that stuff, it's definitely affected by the federal government. But 90% of what you can control, like if you live in a good state, you can have a really good life. And if you're obsessed and all you think about is Joe Biden and the federal government, and you're completely divorced or like disconnected from what's going on in your town, and then suddenly there's a bunch of crime and there's homeless people, like this is happening in our city too, where all of a sudden, progressive mayor, 2 years later, there's homeless people, there's no roads, no one wants to develop in the city, everything's kind of going to shit again.
Wow.
And this happens like within a couple of years of, you know, progressive people taking over because they just don't prioritize this stuff. And they tell the police, no, don't take the homeless people to shelters, just leave them in the park. And things spiral then because all the good people, like you said, are going to leave. And then who's left? The people that can't leave because they're poor or they're on state assistance or whatever. And then you have the shittiest shithole you can imagine. So how do you stop that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a really big problem. I feel like, okay, take your situation. It really does. It has a multiplying effect. Good people leave, and then they don't have a vote. They left, and so that progressive mayor gets reelected because the people who would fight against him and elect someone else have left because he was so bad. So it's like the worse they are, the more likely they are to be reelected because their constituency are the really poor people who want handouts and want, to be excused for their bad behavior. Yeah. So you get more and more and more bad behavior, more and more good people leave. You just look at California and the history of that, where they just overwhelmed the population with immigrants who people voted for Democrats, but the right was asleep. The right had been asleep, and like in most places. And instead of waking up and going down to City Hall and slogging and pushing back against the progressive left that was trying to take over, they left and they left and they left and they continued leaving. And the worse it got, the more left. And every day I hear of another person who's leaving the state. I might be too late to push back here. That might be true.
Yeah, there comes a point where it's over.
Yeah. But it was just a multiplier effect. And eventually they passed laws that gave them a permanent supermajority here. It's a one-party state. And I would say that it began with people leaving.
100%. Remember California in the 60s, 70s, 80s? It was
very Republican.
It was Ronald Reagan Republican. It was the golden age of California. It was an awesome state.
It is an awesome state. It's still an awesome state, wrecked by progressive politicians.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a cautionary tale. I think you do get to a point, like you said, where once a political machine is in power in a city, you almost can't excise it. And this has been happening since the 19th century, though. New York, Baltimore, Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, like once their machine's in place and all the good people leave,
that's right.
Then it's just entrenched.
And again, it's the psychology of the two sides. Like you don't see the same thing with Republicans. When Republicans take control, they're not entrenched. But like Obama weaponizing every freaking agency, now we're dealing with that. Now when Trump goes in, he doesn't even have a shot because all those agencies are so weaponized that they're all against him, even the ones he supposedly runs, and they get rid of him. And then they persecute his followers. So it's kind of like DC. It's like California. Is it too late? Is it too late to go in there and make a difference? I don't want our best people to go to Washington. I kind of like the idea of Trump going back because he isn't our best people, but he's a showman. And that kind of is something that, but he also, I think, does stabilize foreign policy for some reason, even though he's I think he's a good deal maker or something, I guess. That's kind of his superpower. because he did create a peaceful world while he was in office. Isn't that weird? This guy who is such a weird, childish bully actually created peace, more peace than we've had in a long time.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people thought he was crazy, so they feared him. They don't fear Joe Biden. But no, you got a good point. And I think we need our best people probably in the States. And we probably have one more shot at trying to reform the federal. I think the federal government's like beyond reform at this point. I really do think the whole country is going to move towards like a divorce, secession type situation
or
over
a
the next
states' rights
generation.
nullification kind of thing where we just like, no, we're not
Same
doing
thing.
that.
We're not doing that. But I'm saying that that's the same thing almost. It doesn't have to be like we are seceded. It could also just be no, we've passed a thing in our
It
constitution.
could be like,
that says
like
we
a
don't do
strike,
that.
like a slowdown. We just don't accept it.
I mean, why couldn't a state like Florida pass an amendment to their constitution that says we don't recognize the federal income tax? I'm just saying, if the IRS comes here, they'll be arrested or something. I mean, you could see stuff like that happening rather than Florida saying we're a independent state. They could start really passing serious laws
Nullification
or nullification
laws.
type laws. That's what I don't know. I think that's the path we're on, though. I don't think anyone's going in a magic bullet, silver bullet to DC to like reform.
It is hard because once those progressives get entrenched, they're really good at they've got a very active base, and they're very good at putting their people in power and cheating and doing all the things that our side doesn't really do. And so I don't want to say they're so powerful, and I don't want to say we should retreat. I feel like we gave it up. It's our fault in a way.
It's totally our fault.
So I don't think that they've done this. It's like the parents giving into the tantruming toddler. Is the toddler all powerful? Did he, is he so strong that the parents just got completely taken over, or did the parents not do the right thing?
Just give the baby
give him a cookie.
Just give him a cookie, and then he'll be
shut
good.
up. I can't stand the screaming. Give him a cookie.
We're out of cookies now, and we've got adults that are monsters.
Yes,
that's what happened.
And on that happy note, no, actually, I think that was a good show. To end this, I want to show you one thing I was going to show. It's a if this is real, this is the ocean pollution thing. Highest ocean plastic waste polluters. You hear this like plastic in the ocean?
Yeah.
What the hell is going on in the Philippines?
Whoa.
The Philippines? Did you think the Philippines would be the highest garbage plastic polluter, ocean polluter of all the nations?
I thought we're the ones who are giving up straws. Like,
we're not even on the map. We're in this rest of the world section here.
So Europe, and so all of us.
We're not the top. We're not the top.
Wow. 10. So China, Philippines, India.
China's over here. India's over here. But the Philippines?
What are you guys doing there?
What is going on?
What? They're just.
Hey, Philippines.
They love their plastic.
If you're Filipino, comment and tell us what the hell is going on over there. Is everything built in plastic?
Yeah,
what's happening?
Are you building homes? Are you building homes and cars out of plastic? Like, what's going on? Jeez.
I just want to know. I don't understand this.
We have buildings and cities made of plastic.
Like, it's a tiny island chain, It's like, what is going on? Brazil, 37,000. The Philippines, 350,000. China, 70,000. The Philippines, 350,000.
Well, even like Myanmar. What's going on in Myanmar? And Bangladesh? I mean, these are small countries.
These are, maybe it's
what do
their
they do there?
Geographic area or something. India, 126,000. The Philippines, more than twice.
Oh, you know what I think it is? Okay, here's my theory, is they dump shit in the ocean. like I think we have a lot of garbage, but we just don't throw it in the ocean.
You're saying they don't have land.
They don't have land to dump it in, so they just
throw it in the water.
Dump it. Yeah.
Okay, Philippines.
That's obviously what's going on.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, obviously, because they just don't care. They're like, I don't think they're like their countries are made of plastic. I mean, I think they just They just don't give a shit.
They just give less shit.
They give less fucks about it.
All right, everybody. Hey, have a great week, and we will see you next week. Thanks for joining us.
There's a house called the House of Sunny. It's filled with satire and fun. It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed or your money back. Last time, ready?